Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Okay, so welcome to the first episode of Hacking Your Health podcast. I'm Ben Canning.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
We're here to, first of all, today, basically introduce ourselves, tell our stories, our fitness side of things, how we got into training, where we're at and how we got here, and then a little bit about the podcast and what they expect in future episodes.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be awesome. Getting into how we kind of came through our journey, what you can do with yourselves. I think it's going to be a really exciting time. I'm really excited about this first podcast.
Okay, I'm going to let you tell your story first.
Oh, I get to go first?
Yes, of course. It's about you.
No, it's about you.
I'll let you go first. I mean, I guess we just need to, how far back do you want to go to start to sort of catch up life updates up until now?
Yeah, so when I was first born, no, just kidding. No, listen, my story is, I'm sure unique to everybody else's, right? When I was a kid, I was pretty skinny up until about 6 or 7. And then as soon as I started getting a little bit older, I started packing on weight. And, by the time I hit 16, 17 years old, I was, extremely overweight, really unhealthy, and decided to make a change for myself and join the United States Marine Corps. And I did 5 years in the Marines, deployed twice to the Middle East, 3 times in the Middle East for intelligence-related missions, and then got out. And, throughout my entire life, I've pretty much been overweight, except for when I was in the Marines, when they basically force you and starve you and make you run 1,000,000 miles an hour and all that other good stuff. But as soon as I got back out again to the Marines, I ballooned right back up again, and I hit 315 pounds. I was in horrible shape. I had heart surgery because of my weight. I was just it was one of those times where I knew I wasn't going to last long if I didn't make a difference or a change in my life. And during those periods of time, though, I've had a lot of success in my career, my business. I run 2 very large cybersecurity companies, Trusted Second Binary Defense. And, we're global. We focus on different aspects around cybersecurity, helping companies protect against cyber threats and things to that effect. And, being a business owner, I didn't make time for myself. I didn't focus on myself. I focused on work. I focused on family. And, I just let myself get out of control. And, I finally decided, eventually to make a change and to really try to better myself. And I tried like every single diet known to man. I tried keto. I had tried, intermittent fasting. I had tried all of these buzzwords that you see on the TV, because that's what all the celebrities do. And that's what all the news tells you to do. And that's what, when you Google how to diet. And what I didn't realize is that literally it's like something like 90+% of diets, fail for everybody. Right. And I had some success with keto where I was like, hey, I'd drop like 10, 15, 20 pounds, and then I'd gain 30 pounds back. And, eventually I just, really had enough. And I was able to finally kind of drop the weight. And we can get into some of those details in a little bit, but was able to drop the weight, and then, started struggling again with keeping it off. And, especially as I got older, I'm in my late 30s, 39, really struggled with making that change to get better. And luckily I found you, Ben. It was really weird too how I found you. It's like I was looking for a trainer, somebody that could give me guidance, somebody that would care about me and my personality. And there was a lot of programs online that I was looking at that were really structured programs, but it wasn't working with somebody on a regular basis, right? It wasn't the hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm just having a bad day, or hey, I decided to eat 6 pieces of pizza. I'm a total horrible person now, and I've totally shot everything I was doing before. Somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, and literally I was looking through trainers, and you happened to message me, and I'm like, hey, I'll be happy to chat, and your approach and everything else I was like, hey, I'll give this guy a shot. I didn't know, I didn't trust you at first. And it took about 3 months for me, I think, to really trust you. But eventually, I can honestly say and report back that I'm in the best shape of my life by far, including my 20s, teens, everything else. I have the most amount of energy I've ever had. I have the most amount of muscle that I've ever had. I'm lean. I feel great. I feel strong. And most importantly, I'm healthy. And it's really made a drastic change in my life. It's made a drastic change for my family, knowing that I'm going to be here longer. And honestly, it's a ton of fun. I'm at these gyms smoking 20-year-old kids, that are meatheads, and it's the greatest thing ever. I love it. It's the best feeling you could ever possibly imagine, being in your late 30s and doing all that. But it's been an awesome journey, and I'm just getting started, in my opinion. We got so much more to do. But that's a little bit about my background and my story and kind of how I came through with that.
Cool. I mean, you touched on a lot of things that I think we'll probably have to have separate episodes for. We'll talk about keto, we'll talk about intermittent fasting, why they don't work and why they're such buzzwords. But I think for me, the biggest thing and the best thing that you said there is obviously that you feel like you're going to be here for longer for kids and stuff, and it's been focused on health. But more importantly, it's been fun. Like, it hasn't been a challenge, and it's not something that you dread doing. You actually are the opposite. That if I tell you to take some time off, then we fall out a bit. But I think that's probably the best thing about it. People see these like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that, whereas I almost see training and monitoring nutrition and everything else like, I can do that, like I'm able to do that. It's not, something that I feel like I have to do. So yeah, I think it's been cool so far.
Yeah, I think for me, the diet thing is the biggest thing that resonated with me looking back. It's like you're never built to have success with them because you can't sustain that type of lifestyle forever. And, if you're doing a diet for a short period of time, but you have the nutritional aspects and understanding how your body works afterwards, a system that you can put yourself into, I think diets can be effective, but, no one teaches that. And I think the big realization and eye-opening for me was, hey, your body literally is a machine. And you hear people say, well, I'm just big boned or I have slow metabolism. No, it literally is how your body works. Thermogenics and understanding, you have calorie burns and you have calories in versus calories out and what protein does to you versus carbohydrates and fats. Like, no one talks about that. And that was like the eye-opening thing with me when I started working with you. Sorry, I hit mute. That's my bad. I now know what I can focus on, and I have a system that I know for sure that I can pack on pounds when I want to gain more muscle, and I can lean up when I want to. And it's literally just small, tiny tweaks. And those things were just so successful for me and others. It's just an amazing feeling. But yeah, when you have control over your body.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to touch on as well, that if we want to get lean or pack on muscle, like there was a bit of friction there whenever weight started to come up, but it's knowing that, okay, I know exactly what I need to do to pull this back, and knowing that it's not going to be an extended period of time and you're not going to wake up tomorrow being 300 pounds again.
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge for me going through this. You hear the scale, the weight, the scale. Your weight is everything, right? And, I remember Ben's like, listen, dude, like, stop complaining about weight because look at this before and after picture. And there's a picture of me at 217 pounds. And then there's a picture of me at 220 pounds. And it's like a ridiculously different person. Like you see the abs, freaking out. You see the biceps and triceps and all this other stuff, right? It look like a completely different person. And, it's hard to change that psyche. And I still to this day, still freak out a little bit here and there, right? I see that number increasing a little bit, but then it balances itself out and you're so much stronger. You're hitting new PRs, your muscles are getting larger. It's all part of the process. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to trust you on at first was really that aspect, right? Because I would, at first, when we first started training, I saw my weight dropping. So I'd drop weight. You had me in a caloric deficit. And then we started, upticking the calories, and I started seeing my weight increasing again. I'm like, whoa. What is this? And you're like, hey, trust the process. I know what I'm doing here. And that was really the hardest thing for me, I think, to get through. And once I got past that and realizing it, it's just like, it's a whole different mentality. I want to gain weight now. Again, it's controlled. It's a controlled weight gain to build as much muscle as I possibly can. And I love it. And that's not for everybody, right? Not everybody wants to get super big. You might want to be lean and cut. You might want to be big and go to, and feel great with your shirt off, whatever it ends up being. All of those are desirable goals, but those are all things that you really have honed in on based on the person, which I really loved.
Yeah, I think it needs to be based on what you as the client actually needs and wants. And I guess that probably leads into my story. Like, I came the total opposite. I was always skinny, like always very, very skinny. Never really took care of myself, never really thought anything about the gym. I would try the odd time here and there because my friends were going to dead on, and I would do that, go one day and my arms would be like a T-Rex and I wouldn't be able to move again. I'm like, no, that's not for me. I was obviously quite big into party scenes, or going out and drinking and things like that. And that was sort of where my late teens, early 20s fell. And I think probably one of the biggest realizations that I have from that was me just using that as an escape. I probably didn't realize that until after, being able to look back. And if I look back on it now, transitioning from being out drunk 5 nights a week to being in the gym 5, 6, 7 times a week, it was just a transition to a different escape, but definitely a more healthy one. So for me, I guess, it was actually a very good friend of mine. He qualified as a coach and needed someone to do his first sort of before and after. So I did, I think it was 8 weeks with him. And that was the first time training actually stuck with me. And it gets to we spoke about this before, it gets to that stage where you're putting in a bit of effort and you're seeing the results and you go, right, okay, well, I mean, if I'm doing this and this and I'm feeling this way, if I cut back on this and I start adding this in, how far can I push it? And then I just became hooked. And that was, I think, start of 2014. And then from there, it's just sort of progressed. And I guess in terms of how I've got to where I'm at now, it's just continuing to push the boundaries. I laugh that whenever I first started training, my goal was I wanted to just fit my clothes. So I would have worn a small t-shirt. I'm I just want my shoulders to sit in my shoulders. And I'm right, okay, now I'm I want to be, wear extra large and fill it out. And you're talking about freaking out about weight going one way. I'm I want my weight to go. So my weight was always to be, my goal was always to be 100 kilos or 220 pounds. And I was right, what can I do to get there? Again, mistakes along the way that, I just chased scale weight. So I focused on that number and I ended up, okay, yeah, I was close, but I was very round. And I was right, how can I do this in a proper way? You're talking about building muscle and doing it in a controlled way. And, how can we get to that? So I guess that's the update in terms of me and my training and where I'm at. But in terms of how I became a coach, I hated the job that I was in. And I figured that, if you're going to spend 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week in work, you want to be able to do something that you enjoy. I figured that I had totally transformed my life from going from being, for want of a better word, a total pisshead to, someone who's looking after health and, in a much better place physically and mentally. I figured if I could do that, I could help other people do that. I had an online coach at the time, and I was right, I want to be an online coach. And I was how am I going to do that? What did I do to get there? So then I obviously went and did my qualifications, became a gym floor, on the floor coach. I feel that's how I learned a lot in terms of how people move, working with different people, what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy doing. Then obviously opened up the online side of things, which sort of gives me the freedom and the flexibility to work with people like yourself all over the world. And I'd obviously set myself a goal of I want to be full-time online by actually December this year. And then obviously everything was sort of pushed forward that I've been full-time online since March last year. So that's, I guess, how we're here and my story.
Well, I think what resonated with me, with you specifically, is that, I think everybody wants to have a purpose in life, right? That whether that's family, whether that's your work, or whether that's whatever. But, for me, you seem driven off of helping others achieve their goals, right? And I think what's unique about that is you have a number of men and women customers. When I first came, it was predominantly women, right? I was the only man there, and I was like, man, I feel kind of out of place here. But there's obviously I think it's pretty well balanced right now on how many men and how many women you train. And, what's great to see that is that, everybody has their own different struggles, but what you've really created there is a community. And I think that's part of the success is like, I think community is really a direct representation of the leadership or the people that bring those folks together. And I think you really set the tone of, hey, I'm going to accomplish this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to bring in everybody to my same type of culture to build this out as well. And it's like a family, right? We are all working together. We all have our struggles, and we all joke around and make fun of each other and have a good time with it. And, everybody's just, really wanting the success of everybody else as well, right? And I think you instill that with everybody. And I think that's also a reason why you have a lot of success with this program and what you do with people is just the community you've built.
Yeah. It was one thing that I thought that I would struggle to have when I moved fully online, because obviously on the gym floor it was fine because there was people in, branded hoodies and everybody knew who trained with me and they could see because I was physically there training and they would train together and it was fine. So it was easy and it still had that community feel. And I think, the weekly group calls that we have and stuff like that. And like you said, yes, at the start, it was very much, we were talking about periods and it just was not the conversation.
I learned a lot to pass over to my wife, so it worked out perfect. So. And I understand her much better now, by the way. Let's throw that out there.
So yeah, like it's come from that. And then I think, probably the biggest thing, like you're saying, it's almost a place that, actually, I think it was Chris that said, it's a place that he feels like he can go and actually be himself. He doesn't have to be, the boss at work or, the husband or whatever. And, he can go and just be himself, share his struggles, but also share his wins and then be able to help people who maybe were in a similar position and things like that. So yeah, definitely the group and the community thing is a big aspect of it. And it's actually something that you touched on as well, to sort of transition to what you said business-wise and what you do with your staff and how you sort of create that, in a business with staff versus me with clients or customers.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how much culture means a big deal to whatever you're doing from a success perspective, whether that's in your family, at your workplace. For me on the business side, the first thing I remember, I think, when I came aboard is like, I'm not going to have enough time for these programs that Ben sets for me, right? And I look at it, and I'm like, and you're like, well, how much time can you give me? And I think I said I could do 3 times a week, an hour or something like that was my first bet. And now I'm like, I train like literally every day now, pretty much. I do have rest days, which are nice here and there, but I don't like them.
3 hours a day now you're doing?
Sometimes that is the case. Sometimes longer. But I enjoy it, right? It is my time to give back to myself, right? And that is, I think that's the key difference here is that, a lot of people don't take time for themselves. They don't take time to better themselves, to learn something new, to read a book, or to go out and walk. Like, I tell you, the most karma thing that I do that I enjoy in my time is the steps. Yeah. So as part of the program, you require folks to get steps, whether that's starting off at like 5,000 or 10,000 or 12,000 or 15,000 or whatever it ends up being. I think mine's at 12,000 right now. And, I love going to the park and just going for a walk and putting on a podcast and detaching, putting my do not disturb on for a solid hour and just walking and taking time for myself. Right. And I think that replicates to, family, to work and everything else. When you make time for yourself, everything else becomes more efficient because you have that time to detach. You have that time to unwind. And I think the culture that you've built, that helps support when we have tough times, because all of us go through some serious tough times, right? Whether it's, a death in the family or, COVID, we're doing this whole thing during COVID and, you folks couldn't go to the gym and stuff like that. And I think I was bragging about going to the gym here in the States, but I apologize for that. But everybody was still putting the work in and getting things done and doing things they needed to. And that comes down to culture. And I think, for me on the business side, I really try to instill a great culture in my companies to ensure that it has that family feel for the folks and you take care of everybody as one. And I think that's where I can say the single most biggest point of failure for people in health is that they're trying to do it on their own. And you don't have that support system of people to help teach you, to help guide you, and to pick you up when you're down. I've sent you text messages before that are like, listen, man, I literally was at a poker game last night and I drank 5 beers and I had 6 pieces of pizza and I literally feel like I went back 4 years in my progress, and I'm the most horrible person ever, and I'm going to revert back to being myself. I mean, it's a crazy panic thing. And, Ben's like, calm down. I think he probably threw a couple F words in there, but, calm down, dude. Like, listen, one day is not a big deal. Like think about how long it took you to get to the point of being out of control and being overweight and being unhealthy to where you're at now. It's not, it's not this flip of a switch where in 1 week you're going to be fat or skinny or muscular or whatever else. This is a lifestyle journey for the rest of your life and a framework for you to be able to do it. And you said, and this is what resonated with me, is you said, I never want you to feel like you can't go out and have a great time with your friends and drink some beer or go eat some pizza or cake or something like that. You should feel confident in yourself and the framework that you have in place in your life, that's not going to become the habit, right? The problem is when you start having it day after day after day after day after day, and you're not taking care of how many calories you're putting in and how you're breaking those down. That really resonated with me. And it's a trust factor with myself, right? It's a trust factor that I'm not going to fail myself doing that. So every once in a while, yeah, I'll have some beers. I'll break my calories, right? And then I feel great the next day, and I go kill myself the next day even harder. So, it's just this mindset you have to have about yourself. And I think you do that so well about helping us guide through that and having somebody there to really be to focus with you.
Yeah, I think I actually had a call on Monday just past there, and there's the term accountability gets thrown about a lot, in the industry, and people are selling accountability and blah, blah, blah. And I sort of had a thought about it. It was, truth be told, it was quite an intense initial call. And I think more so than anything, it's not that you need someone entirely to be accountable to, but it's almost just knowing that someone's in your corner, whether it's good or bad. Someone is going to give you what you need based on, knowing you as a person. So whether you need to be told, like, don't worry about it, or whether you need to be told, right, you need to get your shit together, it's about knowing each individual as a person, and you guys knowing that you can come to me no matter what the issue is or what the problem is, and you'll leave the call or message or whatever it is feeling like, all right, okay, this isn't so bad. And sort of to touch on, the lifestyle thing, like, as you know, like, I don't want anybody to ever feel in any way restricted in terms of what we do. And almost given that freedom means that people adhere more, rather than me going, no, you can't have beers, you can't have pizza, and you'd be like on the sly having beers and pizza every single weekend, but not saying. So it's that sort of the trust that you build, the client to coach relationship, and having something that's sustainable and long term. And as we've said a million times, like, you want something that you can do from now until the end of time. Like, it's not something that's just going to be, I'm going to get you from A to B and then you're on your own. It's okay, how can we build sort of guidelines and rules and framework that you can stick to no matter what your goal is for the next, hopefully, 50 years.
Yeah, and that's, that framework that is laid out, I think is the most critical. And I think, we will definitely in future podcasts dive down into, like, how do you create a program for yourself that makes you successful, right? Talk about total daily energy expenditures and macro breakdowns and micronutrients and protein intake and workout strategies. There's so much great data on there on the science around how our bodies work. We know more about our bodies now than we ever have in the history of mankind, right? And, it's so fascinating to me. I just read scientific studies literally all the time, and I send him to bed, and he's like, seriously, are you like up at like 4 o'clock in the morning reading science studies? I'm like, yeah, it's just like, there's a really cool one here. It's like, yeah. But what's amazing is that, I think where a lot of people, and this is historically what I was drilled into my mind, is that cardio is how you lose weight. I need to do more cardio to lose my weight. I need to do more cardio to get healthy. I need to do more cardio for the rest of my life in order to be the person I want to be. And like, you literally shattered that the first day I started working with you, right? You're like, no, actually, we're going to have you eat more work. We're going to eat more food. We're going to have you do less cardio, and we're going to have you do some weight training, right? And I'm like, what? Like, what is this guy talking about? Like, I was told to do cardio all day long every day. I'm like, I'm doing 8 hours of cardio every day for the rest of my life is what I'm going to do, right? And that's and it's crazy to think that, and I'm not saying cardio is bad, by the way. There's so many great health benefits of cardio, but it's not going to make you lose weight, right? It'll make you burn more calories, but what happens in most cases is people then thus eat more food, increasing your calorie intake, which then you gain weight. And you're like, why am I gaining weight when I'm running 700 miles a day? So I think, getting into some of the frameworks that are backed by science, that, have had a lot of success with us and how your program's structured, I think is going to be really good on the future podcast, and just getting into like the nitty gritties of like, what can you do to be successful with this? Because this program is literally for every single person. It's for somebody that believes they're big boned or they're always going to be overweight. It's for people that have slow metabolism. It's for people that have high metabolism. It's people that want to gain weight. It's like, it like literally works for everybody because it's how every single person's body works. And that's what I really loved about this. And that's what really, I think, gives me the confidence to know that where we're going with this, I will be successful at it because it's maintainable. And I see the results too, right? I'm like I said, I'm working out 3 hours. I'm lifting 700-pound tires in my backyard for fun. It's just, it's an amazing journey that I've gone through in just a year, by the way. We're just coming up into our year mark, which is insane to think how much progress has been made from start to finish from just a year from now. And I feel like I'm like just starting, but yet I feel the best I ever have in my entire life. I'm the most confident I've ever been in my entire life. My brain, by the way, works 3,000 times better than it did prior to me working. Like my brain fog cleared up. I mean, everything is working better. Your body is a direct representation of your brain. Your brain is a direct representation of your body. It's just an incredible feeling. It gave me a whole new lease on life, man, for sure.
Yeah. I think there's 2 points to sort of touch on that. The first is that everybody thinks you need to move more and eat less. That, I think, is where the trust issues come with anybody who starts out. And truth be told, like, I guess that's where the group comes in as well. That, like you said, if I tell you, okay, we're going to actually eat more and move less, you go, this guy is smoking crack.
That's exactly what I thought, by the way, at first. I'm like, all right, I might have made a mistake on this, but I already paid for it, so I need to at least go through this 3 months first, right?
But then, like I said, whenever they get into the group and it's, people who are saying the same thing and they go, oh yeah, well, I didn't trust Ben for 3 months and then whenever I did, blah, 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 and now, I'm eating more food than I ever have, I'm losing weight, whatever the goal is. But I guess the second point sort of leads us to how the podcast came about. And I think it's every other benefit that comes along with your training and your nutrition. So you're talking about your mind being clear and things like that. And I think, there's so much more to it. And it's funny because as a coach, I can't sell, you're going to have a better mindset, blah, 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 because people don't think they have a mindset issue. They come to me like, I need to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, like that's almost like the gateway into what you can actually achieve. And I think that's the hardest thing for me to try and convey initially. And I think I said this to you before, I always would have put back that when you're training and your nutrition are in line, everything else in life is in line. But someone put it back to me not so long ago. It's whenever you have the discipline in your training and the discipline in your nutrition, that discipline falls into every other aspect of your life, whether it's work, whether it's with your family, whether it's education, whether it's learning, whatever it is. And as we know, discipline equals freedom. So that's, I think, leads us into why we sort of decided that we would start this podcast and what we actually want to achieve from it.
Yeah. I think most people feel like they don't have the discipline to be able to do things, right? And I think the reason why they don't feel they have the discipline is because they've tried so many different things before in the past and failed at it, right? And that failure leads to, hey, I don't want to do this again because I just failed at it. And, I'm here as a direct representation. There's a number of your other customers and clients that are a direct representation. Listen, people say, hey, I don't have time to do this. Well, I'm not saying I'm any busier than anybody else, but I run 2 massively large cybersecurity firms. I have a family of 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, a wife, and a bunch of other stuff. The guinea pigs, like, by the way, I never wanted, but now I'm so attached to them, those little creatures. I make time for myself. And I think that's the biggest thing is that you have the time. It's just you get so consumed with everything else that you're like, I'm so myopically focused on this that I can't focus on the bigger picture, which is going to be me. And, when you start getting down into, okay, well, hey, like a couple weekends ago, there's a favorite place of mine. It's a chili place called Skyline Chili. It's horrible for you. It's like the worst thing ever, right? It's a massive amount of cheese and hot dogs and, chili and all this other stuff, right? It's like literally like fat content is like probably like 70% ratio, 10% protein, the rest is carbs, right? But here's the thing, like I go there now I don't go there very often, but I do go there when I want to enjoy something. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to have 2 of the hot dogs, and it fits in the breakdown of my macros for the day. And yeah, I might need to go a little skinny at lunch or something like that, and maybe just consume a protein shake to bounce back up on the protein side. But I know that balance of my body, and that was really hard for me to buy off on with you at first, because I think the first initial couple weeks are, we input all the data around our bodies, right? So like what I really liked about your approach is like it was very data driven, right? So we go over measurements, right? So I have this little measurement calculator here where I measure my waist and my hips and my shoulders and everything else, right? And we look at that and you say, okay, what is it this week, and what's my weight? And let's measure this every day going throughout there, and let's look at where your calories are at, and let's start to balance those out. You already have a pretty good idea based on age, gender, everything else, where the calories are going to be at. But you kind of want to home in on that and figure out, hey, this is a good spot where they feel that they have a great amount of energy, that they can perform. And it also puts them in a position where they're starting to grow in the direction that they want to go, whether that's losing weight or whether that's, gaining muscle or whatever. And, that type of system, that type of way of thinking makes you have that discipline, right? Because you know what you're doing. Like, I can eat a piece of cake, don't care. Like, it's not going to bother me, right? I can go eat a donut, don't care. It's not going to bother me, right? I'm not going to eat 6 donuts, and I'm not going to eat 6 donuts every day for a month. But but that's that's really the mindset to have, is that, listen, this is a journey for your body. This is a system for the rest of your life. This is something that doesn't constrain you from having beers with friends or going out and eating a burger. It's literally just doing it responsibly and not making it a habit to eat horribly all the time. And I eat great I eat literally, like right now I can't even eat as much as I want to. Like I eat or that I have to. I'm eating too much. Like, and then we're about probably bump calories up again. So like, but that's a lot of work to get to that point to where I have enough muscle to be able to support, that type of thing. Right. But at the end of the day, the discipline equals freedom from Jocko Willink, comment is, listen, if you have the mental discipline to commit to do something that you you're going to be maybe not successful at, maybe you don't think you're going to be successful, but to commit to it with everything, you will be successful with it. There's no way else it could go if you do it yourself. And it's just giving you the time to go and do it. And listen, I'm a busy guy. I have a lot of stuff going on a day-to-day basis. Again, I'm not saying I'm busier than anybody else. We all have our own busyness. But I have afforded myself more and more time, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the months for myself. And that drastically has impacted how it feels like today. And I'll talk about mindset. Like, I think we could do a whole podcast on mindset because, today I woke up this morning and I had a really long day yesterday of trying to set up my gym. I carry like 4,000 pounds of boxes by myself because I'm because it's me. That's what I want to do. Of course, I'm not going to call my friends over to help, which would be more than happy to come and help me out. I lifted 4,000 pounds of boxes myself. And, my dad comes over and we set up this big friggin' hack squat / leg press machine. It takes like 5 hours. I'm exhausted. I go to bed at like 10:30, just like completely. And by the way, I started lifting those boxes right after I did my legs workout from Ben. So, and then so like I'm all dead. And I go to bed and I wake up this morning and I have to, I do a thing called Orange Theory, which I really like. It's a great cardio program. It's called high intensity interval training or HIIT training. I'm sure we'll talk about that quite a bit. But I do that 3 times a week because I enjoy it. And, this morning at Orange Theory, I'm like, I don't want to go. Like my body's like, hey, I don't want you to go. I could just literally turn it off, eat the $25 it's going to cost me for missing it and go back to sleep. But I'm like, hey, I'll just go. I can't just quit. I'm going to go. So I get there and I'm like, I don't want to run. I don't want to do this. And as soon as I start running, it's like my mind just stops all that BS. And it's like, hey, it's time to put the work in. And literally, I killed myself today. I had the highest strain I've ever had before at Orange Theory. It was like one of my most crazy days that I decided to go and work out. And it was awesome. I felt amazing afterwards, right? And that mindset is something that is disciplined into you as you start to go through this. And I really love it.
Yeah. I think that the quote from Jocko, because I was listening to that podcast, I think I maybe sent you a link to it, him and Lex Friedman, I think. Lex asked him, what is discipline? And he said, it's doing the stuff that you know you should do. So, like you said, it's easy to sort of sack it off and not do it. And it's easy to, be like, oh, well, I'm not, like it's only $25, whatever. Like I can catch up the next day or whatever. But you got up because you know that you should do it. And it's that having the discipline. And, people come to me and they're like, I need motivation and blah, 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 blah. But as we've both discovered, the motivation will only last so long, and what actually carries you through is the discipline to continue to do the things that you know are going to give you that better feeling. Like you said, you felt great for the rest of the day. It's going to, take you one step closer to your goal. And the fact that you actually did something that you said you were going to do and you didn't sack it off, so you get into that sort of better relationship with yourself in terms of like, okay, I do actually do things that I say I'm going to do. And that probably touches back to what you said about people who have failed at everything else that they've done before, so they think that they're going to fail at this. So if you just sort of shift your mindset to, I'm a person who does the things that I say I'm going to do, and then you're in that sort of positive cycle. And again, as we both know, like that will feed directly into work life, family life, and everything else that you do.
Yeah, it's been the same for me. Like at first, when I first started, I remember when I first had the conversation with you, and I remember I was trying to eat healthy. Okay, that's how I felt. So I eat salads. I would eat, this and that and this. I'd go to Panera. I would, I eat Chipotle every day. And Chipotle, by the way, you can eat super healthy. I like Chipotle. You can do like, rice and chicken and everything else is great. For fast food. But I was gaining weight again, and I'm like, well, I'm eating healthy and I'm gaining weight. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Like it must be like I'm a unique person. Like I'm just going to gain weight because I'm getting older. These crinks in my neck and my body and everything else are just because I'm getting older. The way that I feel brain fog wise is just because I'm getting older. I just need to accept myself breaking down, basically, is how I started to feel. And the truth of the matter is that we can prolong our aging and even to some extent come back a little bit, of who we are and how we feel. And the amount of energy that I have today, I have never experienced in my entire life. I wake up energized. I go to bed ready to go to bed because I put the work in. I'm tired, but the rest of the day I am firing on all four cylinders, mental wise and everything else. And I think that the biggest thing for me out of this entire process was, it had really changed my perspective on life in general, because I treat life very differently than I did a year ago. Whether that's time with my family, whether that's time at my job, whether that's when I'm putting the work in for myself, or when I'm going to the park just to get some birds chirping or listen to a podcast and listen to some stuff. I feel like I'm one with myself. And that has really been, I think, the biggest experience with it is that, yes, I feel confident taking my shirt off for the first time in my life going to a beach. Like I went to a beach with my family on vacation. And normally I would just wear a t-shirt, and just sit there and do nothing and just, watch everybody else. And you're like, oh, that dude's got a good body. I wish I had something like that. Right. But now I'm like, hey, I take my shirt off. I feel great. Even though I really struggle getting a tan, I'm like literally as white as it comes. Like I just literally, you see my check-in pictures. It's something else. Right. And then the worst is like, I wear a sleeveless shirt. So then I have like this massive tan along my sides, and then I have nothing here. It's just like, my friends are making fun of me the other day for it, actually. But I feel confident with my shirt off. I feel confident in front of others. But that's an amazing feeling. But the most amazing feeling is how I feel about myself, my confidence, and how I feel about where I'm at in my position of life. And in the security industry in general, and I'm sure this is very common for a lot of other industries. And Ben, I think you can provide a lot of perspective because you're coaching a lot of folks in the security industry now. But it is a very unhealthy industry in general. We are in a high stress situation. A lot of us have to be on call all the time because there are breaches and hacks happening all the time. And for some reason, we have this culture that we have to be up at 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning coding things and doing this and doing that because that is a representation of how awesome we are. And, one of the biggest things on all of this that resonated with me is sleep. Like sleep is it is the number one most fundamental piece about your body. Like your body needs sleep. And I used to brag, I'm like, oh, I only need like 3 hours of sleep or 2 hours of sleep a day. And I'd go to bed at, 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and be working, that was destroying my body. And, and I think in this industry, we live an extremely unhealthy lifestyle. I mean, obesity is rampant in our industry. Deaths are rampant in our industry for unhealthy lifestyles. It's a horrible thing. And, I don't think people realize that they can make a change for the side of the healthy and still be amazing at what they do in their career and their jobs, right?
Yeah. I think the funny thing about, like, we've talked about this a couple of times about the industry, it's almost like, for want of a better term, it's almost like a dick measuring contest in terms of like who has the least sleep and who is the most unhealthy, or who has the most unhealthy relationship with their body because they're getting the work done. And it's something that, I've had to overcome with a lot of people who have come, through recommendation of yourself and whatever else. But yeah, I think that, I guess sleep's probably going to be a couple of episodes long, but I think sort of trying to change and shift the mindset of that, along with changing and shifting the mindset of not having time versus if you actually take that time for yourself, how much more productive you can be, creative you can be, and how much more stuff you can get done in your day because you've taken an hour and a half or whatever it is to yourself, and like how much more you can get from your days by actually being selfish with that time.
Yeah. And to me, I think that's probably the biggest key there is understanding sleep, understanding your body. Like, if you don't understand something, do you just ignore it and then you just become completely you just like people in their profession, what I don't understand, and this is I'm seeing this, for myself as well, because I was the same way, is like, we have this amazing gift. Like, our bodies are just absolutely freaking incredible. Like, the more science I learn about my body and the more studies that come out, I'm like, how the heck did this ever happen? Like, our bodies are so complex. The chemical balances, how ATP works, how aging works, like everything is just by the way, how you build muscle, like, it's just like the most fascinating thing to me. And it's like, we as hackers love hacking stuff and figuring things out and hacking into systems and figuring out code and all this other stuff. But yet we don't want to hack our own body. And we don't want to understand how our body works and the science behind it and get into the nitty gritties, right? And that's just mind-boggling to me. And I can't believe I didn't do it either, because I'm like, I'll just go on keto. It seems easy. I just eat a bunch of meat and cheeses all day and I'll be good, right? And I can do meat and cheeses all the time because I love meat and cheeses. Bacon, come on. Steaks, yeah. Cheese, yeah. Sour cream, yeah. Keep it piling on. And then like 3 months later, like, I never want to eat a piece of meat ever again, And that's not how we need to live our lives. That's not how our bodies work. That's not how, what we've come through from an evolutionary perspective of where we're now. Like, you keep trying to talk me into the cold shower stuff, and I'm never going to do that. But
I literally just had one before we.
You're insane, dude. I can't do it. But I mean, there is some great scientific evidence around freezing your body and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing for me is that I am not an expert in this area, right? But I want to be, and I want to keep learning more and more and more. And I'm not, I feel like I've done a good job on the security side, but I don't, there's always things that I'm learning every day in the security side. So this is just another evolution of you hacking your mind, hacking your body, hacking your job, whatever you're doing. It's literally just understanding what you can do to reverse aging, build yourself some awesome muscle, look great with your shirt off, feel confident, remove the brain fog. All of those things are all obtainable if you put in the time to learn about it. And that's why I'm really excited, I think, about the podcast, is that, we're going to dive down into all those concepts. We'll get into, a structure around, how you're supposed to eat, from a macronutrient perspective, which I think nutrition is just so important, because it's the biggest misunderstood thing out there. Like, they're like, everybody talk to you, by the way. Like, I get a direct message. I'm like, hey, I'm looking at starting off and I'm planning on doing, 2 hours of cardio a day, and I'm planning on cutting out all carbs, and I'm just going to eat a whole bunch of protein and a little bit of fats. And I'm like, that is literally the exact opposite of what you want to do. Like, trust me, like, eat carbs. Carbs are great. I love carbs. I'm at like 300 grams of carbs a day now. And just to keep my energy levels the way that I need to. Carbs are energy, right? But if you're eating refined sugars and a bunch of other stuff and you're piling that on, okay, that's gonna impact you over time. But like the nutrition, the sleep, the things that you can do, as far as balancing your body and its chemicals, like testosterone and other things, in men, and estrogen for women, all of these things are things that we can do to refine our body. And there's a lot of great science behind it. And I can't wait till we dive down into all of those, into the podcast and get folks on and things like that, because I think it's really going to resonate with people as we start to go through this and saying, oh, well, that makes total sense. Like, literally, you can look at your body as a calorie burning machine, and it's calories in versus calories out. So if you want to lose weight, you can't eat more calories than you take in, or else you're going to gain weight. It's the same thing for if you want to, if you want to gain weight, you just eat more calories, and then thus, you increase weight. Now there's some specifics about that, about, maintaining muscle and stuff, but just all that stuff that I feel like is not taught because they want to teach you keto or they want to teach you intermittent fasting. I'm not saying intermittent fasting is a bad thing. There's some good science behind that too, if you incorporate it into an overall program. But like all of these things are things that I feel almost enlightened with myself. And I can't wait to dive down into all those in the podcast. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think the best thing, you said there, when they teach keto, when they teach intermittent fasting, the thing is they don't teach, they just go eat fats and eat protein and you'll be fine. Whereas the greatest gift I feel like I can give to any client, and probably what this podcast hopefully will provide, is the education behind it and how, like, the understanding. I feel like if you have an understanding of something and you know how and why things work, you're more likely to stick to it instead of just because the internet told me that keto is the thing. Not to continue to bash keto, but I probably will quite a lot. If you have the understanding of this is why you need to eat carbs, and they're your body's main fuel source, and this is why you can push them, and you said you're on about 300 grams of carbs. We will continue to push that because your body, we spent time, number one, understanding your body, but number two, bringing calories down, bringing calories up, and knowing exactly where we're at and like how to push things either way. But it's the education and knowing why you're doing things and how your body responds. I think that's probably what we want to achieve. Far beyond, obviously, just nutrition, like you're talking about sleep. We'll get people on for that. We'll talk about TRT. We'll talk about, the business side of things. Like, the show, I'm excited for how much we can cover and like how many people we can bring on and what we can actually give back in terms of, information, education, and the podcast in general. Yeah,
there's so much information out there. And I think, disseminating and following it in a way that people can understand is something that's been lacking in general podcasts in general. I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I think the biggest thing that I fall into is that it doesn't really hit on me as a person. It doesn't hit on what I can do to implement these things successfully. We could do a whole podcast on supplements, right? There's so much, breakdown in things that are just fundamental things and advanced things that people can learn throughout their journey. And I think that's going to be just an amazing thing that we go through all these podcasts. Right now we're obviously just doing introductions and talking through our stories and things like that. But our goal is to get into the weeds. Our goal is to show you what you can do to be successful. I'm obviously biased. I'd recommend, going with a trainer. His name might be Ben Canning. But I would also say, find somebody in this journey with you that will be supportive of you, whether that's a family member, whether that's a trainer. I think, a nutritionist can be helpful, but at the same time, a nutritionist doesn't understand a lot of times, the ins and outs of working out and around there that may home in on your diet. There are things that you can do, I think, to get a lot of support systems for you. And I think if you're just starting off on this journey, find somebody that you can work with in your life that will be there through the ups and downs. And when you're down, make sure that you just don't stay down there. You come back up again, right? To bounce back up and to lift you up. I was in the military for 5 years, and that brotherhood, that feeling that you get with one another when you're down or you're deployed and you're missing family, you have friends there with you to support you and to bring you back up again that are always there with you, right? Side by side, shoulder by shoulder, lifting you up as you go along. I think that's really important to your success. And I think, as we go through and teach you all this stuff, implementing little things in your life to make those changes, whether that's a half hour, 3 times a week or twice a week, whether that's just going out and getting steps in, cardiovascular aspects. You're burning calories and you have some, there's some great benefits with walking. There's so many different things that you can do just to start this journey off a little bit. And if you just, hey, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day, or I'm going to walk 10,000 steps every other day, you're doing something for yourself and you're starting your journey in that program. Start small. I'm not saying you need to work 3 hours, a day. I do that because I love doing it. And, when Ben gives me 4 days off not to work out, I have to basically make up for those 4 days that he didn't, that he made me, take off from my body. So, but it's one extreme to the other, right? So it's a gradual approach. It ramps you up and you eventually get to that point, but find somebody to work with.
Yeah, I think, I guess that's how we ended up here because, we obviously talk quite a lot and you have an interest of actually knowing the science behind things. And, we share podcasts and we share, scientific studies and whatever else. And obviously we're not the only people that have these questions. So that sort of, the podcast will allow us to give us that platform to share it with other people. But at the same time, it's things that, we have questioned. It's things that we have went to find answers to, and the things that we do ourselves on a daily basis. And, one of the biggest things, even if you just talk about steps, the generic 10,000 steps, nobody knows why. It's just a 10,000 number. And whenever I explain, I'm sure I've explained it to you, whenever I explain, why it is 10,000 steps, and when you look at that on a daily basis and a weekly basis, people are like, oh, that makes total sense. I'm definitely going to do that because it's, I know the sort of what I need to put in and what the reward's going to be. And I just hope that, we can do that with everything that, we've discussed and way, way beyond that.
Yeah, to add on the steps thing, steps equate to calories, right? And this is all, at the end of the day, a calorie game that we're playing with our bodies. And, you look at, let's just say, if you did nothing all day long, 2,000 calories is what you burn a day, just as a generic number. If you add 10,000 steps a day, well, maybe you now are burning, 25,000 calories or 2,500 calories a day, right? And that starts to reduce the amount of calories you have, but you're only eating 2,000 calories. So you're adding additional 500 calories a day that you're burning. Over time, you're losing weight, right? So it's literally a math game on how your body. So you got to kind of dial in and figure out where your body's at first, based on weight, based on height, based on age, based on level of activity. Gender makes a big difference. And all of those home in on where your body's at, where your body needs to go in order to get to your desired weight. If that's losing weight and being cut, whether that's gaining weight or whatever. All of those are just little modifications about understanding your body. And we're going to get into all of that, which I think is going to be awesome. But people don't understand, well, why am I getting steps in? Well, you're getting steps in because, one, it's great for your heart. It's great for getting your blood moving and everything else. But you're also burning calories, right? And I know I said earlier, the first thing people tell you to do is go and do cardio to lose weight. Well, if you don't have a structure around that, and you go and you kill yourself at cardio, and then you come back and you eat 2,000 calories, and you eat 2,000 calories for lunch, and then you eat 2,000 calories for dinner, you're 4,000 calories above what you should be eating. It's because your body's like, I need to home in everything. You're like, I need to eat everything. So, we have to home that in to figure things out before you go and do anything. And that's the exciting stuff. That's the stuff that gets me going about understanding how my body works and how I can go and fix it. But it's not rocket science at all. It's literally some simple math, understanding your body, and trial and error. That's literally it.
Yeah, I think that's obviously what I want to get across because, with anybody, it's not as if I look at you and go, okay, right, business owner, family man, blah, 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 I'll just fit them into this box. It's like, okay, we need to look at you, your lifestyle, and where you're at. Find a baseline that isn't always right and spend a couple of weeks sort of refining to get, okay, right, this is where we need to be. And then we need to adjust it one way or another based on what your goal is. And I think even to sort of go back to the steps thing, to me, it's much more than that. It's like you said, time that you're on Do Not Disturb so nobody can contact you. It's time in your own head. It's time outside. You can touch on the sleep aspect of things to sort of get in tune with your body's natural circadian rhythm. It's much more than just going for a walk. It's everything else that sort of comes along with it. So I feel like even just steps will have a podcast of its own.
Yeah. I mean, just the benefits of it and how you can incorporate it. And it's funny because all the folks on the family always make fun of me because literally I go for a walk and my strain is I use what's called a Whoop band, and Whoop band, they calculate things based off of your strain and your recovery. So how much you put your body through versus how much you've actually recovered. Some great data metrics to understand kind of what's going on. Everybody, I love it. There's also the ring. Is it Aura?
Yeah, Aura ring.
A lot of other ones too. Yep. So, but for me, it's funny because they always make fun of me when I go in and do a walk. I get a 14 strain, which the other folks are like, hey, I have to literally bust my ass for 2 hours, killing myself to get that. And Dave goes for a walk and gets, but my sometimes when I go for a walk, it's like an insane, intense power walk with a vest. And I'm almost basically sprinting walking. And my heart rate's through the roof because that's how I feel at that time. I want to kill myself and go out there and just have some fun, right? Sometimes I'm just like, hey, I'm going to casually walk back and get some nature, right? So I think you could do a whole podcast on different techniques of steps. I mean, that breathing thing. So most recently, Ben had an expert come in and do a breathing exercise with us. And I'll be honest with you, I walked into it this is going to be so stupid. The whole breathing thing is ridiculous. I was a skeptic. Listen, I just how I am, right? It's something I haven't done before. I'm like, well, how much can breathing impact me? And, the first few minutes, I'm like, this is stupid. And I started doing it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is relaxing. wow, this is actually really intense. Oh my gosh, this is insane. Whew, well, that was crazy. I feel like I just did a full workout and I got a massage at the same time. It's like, it was like a really crazy thing that you can do about breathing techniques and understanding your breathing. And he had us basically visualizing that we were climbing a mountain, and our breathing basically had to equate to the intensity of us breathing out the mountain. And eventually, I'm literally like sweating and climbing up this mountain in my mind, and my mind is like going off on this tangent that I'm climbing this mountain. My breathing's going crazy, and then at the very end you get to the top and it's just like this most soothing, relaxing feeling that you get. And it's just like that type of stuff that I would have never contemplated to do for myself. It's just a great learning experience, right? You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I think the breath work, I understand the being skeptical behind it, but I think I guess it just, for me, with the breath work, you need to fully commit to it. You can't half-ass it. And I think that is across the board. And you and I have had conversations about half-assing and going all in on things. And I think if you're going to commit to doing something, whether it's breath work or whether it's, going and doing Orange Theory or your training session or some sort of journey or transformation or whatever, fully commit to it and you will definitely reap the rewards. Like, you will definitely feel the benefit of it no matter what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think we're coming up on our time.
Yeah, I think that
was quick, just like that.
Yeah.
We're not going to have problems meeting I think our whole goal was to be around 45 minutes to an hour per podcast, just to kind of, keep it in check there. But I mean, that went very fast. And I'm really excited about the next one already that we're planning. And, one thing I would like to throw out there, like, do you have any books that you recommend for people to start to read, in between podcasts, or things that they can start doing to kind of, get a little pre-reading in ahead of time to give them a little bit of taste of what you can accomplish?
I think the one that comes to my mind, and I think you'll enjoy this, is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willock. I think the way he describes the stories of the things that he went through and relates it back to business and everyday life. And whenever you sort of get into your mind of taking ownership for everything that you have done and do on a daily basis, and have that sort of better relationship with the things that you do, I think that is a great start point. Another book would be the Atomic Habits book, because I think it really, really breaks down how to get rid of bad habits and also build up good habits. And I hope down the line, both those authors are people that we'll be able to interview on the podcast.
Yeah, one I'd recommend that you recommended to me that I really enjoyed was Own the Day by Aubrey Marcus. Another fantastic book just on mindset, fitness, nutrients. I like Aubrey had a saying in there. You are what you eat. And getting into that micronutrient focus, right? Like, if you're just eating processed crap all the time and things like that, your body gets replenished with that. And the way that he kind of explained it, which I thought was really neat, is that your body basically will take whatever's on the shelf, right, to replenish itself. And if it's replenishing itself with crap, your body's going to be replenished with crap. And so if you're putting in good ingredients, good foods, whole foods, things that haven't been overly processed, grass-fed foods and things like that, but your body's going to be replenished substantially better from a nutrient perspective, and how your body recovers is also big on that. So there's a lot of data, a lot of science behind that as well. I think it's, that book to me was a really big game changer. I had it on Audible. I listened to it and then I actually read the whole book, which I don't really do very often. And I really enjoyed Aubrey's. And he's got a great podcast as well, although sometimes he goes on crazy ayahuasca tangents and shaman leaders and stuff like that. So I skipped those podcasts, but like everything else is great that he usually does. So, but that was a good book for me.
Yeah, it's a great book. I'll link all those books in the description somewhere. But one thing I will say is the amount that you've taken away from that On the Day book, the one thing that you didn't do, the cold fucking showers.
I'm not doing the cold showers, dude. I'm not doing it. I tried once, and every time, like, I'm like, I'm going to do a cold shower. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I just can't do it. I hate cold showers. And I do cryogenic chambers, which I have no issue with. But for some reason, cold showers, the water and cold, just not me, man. Not me.
I guess, tune in next week. Thanks for listening. All that sort of good stuff.
Awesome. Have a good one, everybody.
Cool.